Hello, Dad.
Hey, Jamie. We're live, I guess.
We are indeed. Yes, I love that little countdown thing. Gets me
I
all
do
fired
too.
up.
But it kind of mesmerizes me. I want to close my eyes and take a nap. The music's very good with it.
Yeah, when your video feed came on, I wasn't sure if you'd frozen because you seemed paralyzed, perhaps mesmerized, as you say,
Or not live.
or not live. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, here we are again.
Indeed. If you're out there, please say hello. Kerry from the US with a Norwegian elk hound. Kerry knows the drill. Yeah, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what sort of dog you have.
Yeah.
We love to know who's out there, and we will be answering questions very soon. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. I think our tech support person usually just kind of goes through the questions in order from the first posted. So if you're eager to get your question answered, you want to get it in the queue early. All right, Vicky from Florida, Michelle from the US with a German Shepherd. And Celeste waves to us. Hello, Celeste.
Hey, Celeste.
How are you doing today, Dad?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you, Jamie. And you?
I'm doing very well. Carol has 5 Labradors.
Ooh, lovely. Love
Seems
it.
like we're close to a half dozen.
Love it.
Raleigh, I remember Raleigh from yesterday, from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, with a cattle dog cross. Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably jump in. I know the past couple days we have not been able to answer all the questions. We'll
We
try
and be
to
quicker.
answer some more today.
Let's do speed answers.
Speed answers. Okay. Hey, you guys. Question. I've tried everything for excitement urination. He just does it to strangers. He's 10
Okay.
months.
Whether it's like pure over the top excitement or it's some kind of appeasement, type of demo when he sees strangers or she, whatever. I didn't get that. Anyway, I really like this problem because people don't know what to do. It teaches men that they can't punish the dog if they think it is like submissive or appeasement, or punish it for being excited. But then you can't reinforce it either. So what you've got to do is to reinforce the absence of urination when greeting someone. But of course, that never happens because the dog now always urinates when he sees someone. So here's what you do. First, you teach him the routine when you come home. Either you open the back door and walk him straight out to the yard and walk around, tell him to go pee, make sure he's empty, and you greet the dog while you're in motion. So this is also, he learns the game for what a stranger's going to do. You don't let the dog come up to you. You don't approach the dog and loom. Otherwise, it'll roll over and pee, and heaven forbid, it waggles and pees, and then it goes everywhere. So first you teach him the pattern, and then you've got to troubleshoot it. You're going to have 10 strangers come around, but they all know the routine. Okay. So whether they come to the back door and you let the dog out, they walk away from the dog. So the dog has to follow them to catch up. And if they walk quickly, the dog doesn't have time to roll over. They talk to the dog, but they keep walking. As the dog comes in close, they just touch it and say, hey, puppy, hey, puppy. And then once the dog's slowed down a bit, they stop, say sit. When the dog sits, give it a treat and keep moving again. So the stranger always wants to keep moving away from the dog. If you don't have a back door, then they come in the front door and have to do the same, like if you just have an apartment. They must keep moving away from the dog, not looking at it, not letting the dog, approach close enough and remain there. And instead of looming and the greeting comes all at once, they're greeting it on a very sort of progressive and protracted, time period, until they can touch the dog once, then twice, then three, and then have the dog sit. Now, if the dog sits immediately, good dog, and offer a treat and move away, and you check, is there a wet spot there? And you keep doing this, walking away from the dog, sit. It's like you're healing, but the dog's slow. Okay. As soon as you get a couple of dry sits, then you may be able to let the dog come up to you. All right. First time we may have a couple of accidents, but what else is new? We have accidents every day with every stranger at the moment. So once the stranger's done, they go outside, preferably outside the back door, come around to the front again. And we redo the greeting just as we would with a dog that jumps up on visitors. And then we redo the greeting again. We redo the greeting again. And then after we've done this troubleshooting session and the dog's no longer peeing because he's got used to the stranger and so is not so scared, when they come round for real, they ring the doorbell and they stand there. And the dog will sniff their scent under the door and think, oh, it's Joe. Yeah, I know him. And then give the dog a time to slow down. So that's basically it. To get the dog to like the strangers better on the first troubleshooting multiple re-entry greetings, then have the stranger do some repetitive come sits. Very short 1-2 step backwards, come sit, treat, come sit, treat, come sit, treat. That's the quickest way to get the dog to bond and also be mannerly. So whether it's appeasing or submissive or excitement, we've just covered all bases there. The dog learns to come and sit, which is the default greeting for greeting all people. So you may as well, actually, no. On leash, the default greeting for greeting people is no greeting. That's what you want to teach your puppies and adolescent dogs. And the best exercise for that is concentric circles, where you can troubleshoot, 300 to 400 walk-bys in less than half an hour. But everyone keeps going. Either they come towards you and cross, or they pass you. But all the time, your dog either walks by, no greeting at all, or sit, stay when people walk by. And that's the best way to deal with this problem. From the outset, the default greeting is none. Once you want to greet people, then the default greeting is sit.
All right. Very concise, Dad.
Thank you, Celeste. Oh, I thought that said Rod Stewart. I was thinking, wow, I haven't seen Rod since saw him at Heathrow once.
Rose says, I have 2 female Sammies, one 18 months and one 12 months. The younger is very submissive. Can I stop this behavior by always interrupting, as you described last night, for unwanted behavior?
What don't you like? You don't like the submissive behavior? Submissive behavior from the younger one is absolutely essential. What I would do, as long as dogs aren't fighting or hurting each other, I would let them work out their own greetings. And usually we've only got 6 months apart. They're both females. The 18-month-old has to teach this little tyke growing up, or this big tyke, hey, just never forget, I'm higher ranking. And that's done on almost any greeting. In a while, they'll work out very subtle signals, but they have to do it. It's like dogs in a dog park. How many times do you see 2 dogs who are chasing and being chased and mouthing each other? They suddenly stop, signaled by one dog that goes still. They both go still. They don't start until one dog gives a proactive, appeasing gesture or friendly gesture. That's then immediately followed by the other dog. They both have to say, yeah, we know our rank, let's play. So my recommendation is...
Rose just wanted to clarify that the question she's asking about is the older one picks on the younger one. But it doesn't sound like that really changes what you're saying.
No. And I would allow that for a while. Then I would say, dogs, lie down. I would never, though, give an instruction to one dog without the same to the other. So usually we think, we got a bully and we've got a bullied. And so when it gets out of control, I say, dogs down. Why? Often it's the underdog who's geeing up the other dog. I mean, because they haven't learned social savvy yet. You see this at dog shows all the time. Someone walks by with a Yorkie and this German Shepherd goes ballistic and everyone's blaming the Shepherd's out of control. Yeah, but you see what the Yorkie did? That young Yorkie was being carried and then went and eyeballed the Shepherd. That's a total no-no from an underdog to a top dog. because these dogs don't even know each other. So we always blame the bully, but so often it's not the bully's fault. And sometimes the younger dog is relentless and keeps pushing the buttons time and time again. So, I say let them work it out as long as no damage being done. And unless you're okay with what they're doing, if not, say dogs down. Boom. Problem solved. And we often, like with 6 dogs, like who was it who had 5 labs? So we used to have 4 to 8 labs at night in the house, after training day. And Gina would say, you down, and just pick on the 2 dogs that were making the noise. And the 2 of you down, no, the other 6 of you can be 3 on the couch, 3 on your beds. And so you always say the dog's name or names first. But and that's why we practice it in puppy training all the time. You never let dogs play unattended without interrupting it, every 20, 30 seconds, to practice for this when they're interrupting in a way that you don't like or you don't feel happy about. So we do it when they're playing and they're all having fun. And so we go down, and when they lie down, good dogs, go play. So we're now reinforcing the down from the play session by reinforcing it by letting the play session resume. And there's a basic, 4-step process for that.
All right. Jane says, I'm reading your book and I feel like I need to / should start all over with my dog. Is there a way to, quote, clear the whiteboard and start all over again, especially with socialization with other dogs?
Yes, I just started that today with the dog I have in training. As my son said to me yesterday, Dad, why don't you follow your own advice? And I thought, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this. There's a much better way. So tomorrow we'll film some weight and reward training for walking on leash. Yeah, you can start again anytime. And for most people, like I think in my second, third book, I don't know, 4th book, I published How to Teach a New Dog Old Tricks. I define what a new dog is. It's a dog that's new to you, or a dog that's new to training, or a dog that's new to a much better way of training. Yeah, you start today. And I love this. As you see, as soon as you realize, oh dear, maybe there are better ways, you become a ruthlessly brilliant trainer. Because I find in the last 20 years, the most absolutely totally positive trainers who will get on other people's case and say, that's inhumane. Yeah, but I met them 40 years ago when they were doing exactly the same things that they're now criticizing other people for because they don't know the better way, because they didn't sit with me in a bar or come to one of my seminars. And that's why I started the APDT as an open educational group. And yes, I really want people to come who don't train in ways that I may approve of, because I think I have a quicker way. Well, I don't think, I know, because I test what I do. I time it. I keep records of how effective it is, how the effectiveness of reliability changes in time. So when I say this way is quicker, it's not what I think. This is what I know from, 45 years of in seminars, just pulling out a 50 spot and saying, okay, you show me with the dog you pick and then pick one for me. I bet I get the dog doing a 30-second sit stay first. And because lure reward training is just the fastest way to teach verbal control of behavior on the planet. There is no other that's quicker.
Yeah.
So well done. Start again. You're going to go on a beautiful journey.
All right. Nancy says, my Aussie, who's 4 years old and adopted last October from a shelter in Manhattan, New York, is terrific with my senior Mal and is sweet, but goes fear aggressive off the charts when she sees another dog.
Yeah, I mean, this is, absolutely so normal. You see, it happens to so many people. The dog is fine with their dogs at home, whether it's an 8-week-old puppy that's fine with, say, 7 adult monster dogs, and so they think it's socialized. and has social savvy. It doesn't. You see, it is normal development for dogs starting at about 4.5, 5 months of age to become increasingly standoffish, wary, fearful, or downright scared of unfamiliar dogs and unfamiliar people. And that's what socialization is. It's inviting unfamiliar people to your home when you have a puppy, taking off their outdoor shoes before they come in. It's introducing your puppy to unfamiliar dogs. Too many of us get set in our routine of familiarity. The dog lives with the same 4 people in the same house and the same 3 dogs, say. No, socialization is the dog should meet, at least I would say 3, preferably half a dozen unfamiliar dogs a day. Now, at the moment, because we have the problem, we can't just let them off leash to meet other dogs or go nose to nose on leash. That's even harder to do. Off leash would be nice once we've proved to ourselves this is not dangerous, that both dogs have bite inhibition. And the way I usually do it with those dogs is I just let them into our friendly pack, who are the best social savvy teachers I've ever met. They teach the dogs to mind, they teach them not to be scared, and as soon as they play, they build up confidence, and this can often happen within 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But if we don't have that at our disposal, a group of friendly dogs, we're going to have to do it on leash, on walks. And that's the same basic classical conditioning routine. You have to be stationary, sit down on a park bench, have your dog sitting or lying down, and then every time another dog approaches, you start praising, increasing the praise the closer they get, increasing the frequency of giving food rewards the closer they get, and as soon as they walk by and start to recede, you stop. Now, this can be done with as a setup. You get your friends to walk by many times. So walk back and forth the park bench, or to walk out of sight, say round a corner or behind a car, and then come back again. So we're getting multiple passes from a dog that's been seen before. And I was doing this with a dog about 3 years ago. And I just asked a couple of people I knew who this dog liked. It's about the only 2 dogs he liked. I'm going to be sitting on this park bench. Could you come by in the middle of this? Because we've had about 30, 40 unfamiliar dogs come by. Then all of a sudden, what does he see? But one of his best friends comes trotting down. So you've got to do stuff like this. And it's complicated. It is time consuming, but it really is worth doing. And what I would strongly recommend, you take 2 to 3 hours out on that park bench. Or as I said yesterday, 2 to 3 hours to sit outside of a dog park and approaching bit by bit and then retreating drastically, approaching bit by bit and retreating to the places where you sit down. But, unless you're doing 2 or 3 hours, you won't get much of a change. And so I would definitely do that because, as I said yesterday, your dog's not a happy dog when he greets unfamiliar dogs. So let's try and give him the gift of confidence now, which takes more time and it's more involved than it would have been if we'd just gone to off-leash puppy class. And then, because we've done an off-leash puppy class, we go into off-leash puppy 2. And then, because we've done that, we can repeat that a couple of times. We can now go to a dog park. But your dog's going to a dog park with an awful lot of dog savvy. And that's when now they alter the behavior of the other dogs. You see, if your dog is acting scared, that really puts other dogs on edge. It G's them up, and they're more likely to threaten the other dog because they don't like scared dogs because they think, are they aggressive too? So, the whole off-leash raising of dogs and giving them dog confidence is so easy in puppyhood. It's effortless. And I tell the owners, it doesn't matter what you do here. It doesn't matter if you're a hopeless trainer. Your dogs will learn to enjoy the company of other dogs just by being here. And I tell my trainers that too. This is a tremendous gift you're giving to dogs, because I know so many owners now and lots of trainers where they daren't have their dog off leash now because it is reactive. And I think that's a great shame. Again, it's time to get back to how training was in the 80s and 90s. And that's what my whole book was about. Let's go back to when we didn't have dog-dog reactivity. I think Kelly was the first to notice this. And she said, do you think we're getting more and more dog-dog reactive dogs? And I thought, yeah, we didn't even talk about reactive dogs back then. All we talked about was dogs that are fearful to people and human aggression. And so it happened through dog training drifting back on leash, therefore less effective, which allowed on leash training and leash corrections, to creep back in. It didn't have a place in training in the 90s. It really was the pinnacle of companion dog training.
All right.
And like the lady asks about the whiteboard, yeah, we can get back there so quickly. Sorry, Jamie, didn't mean to add that.
No, that's fine.
Just came out of my mouth.
That happens. Jason says, I have 3 dogs, a 14-year-old Yorkie and 2 mini schnauzers, 5 and 11 months. How do I handle pack reactivity? The 5-year-old never barks unless with the pack. The puppy is learning not to bark. Kind of. Thanks.
Oh, it's like the question, Ian, we're teaching a puppy class and there's 10 dogs, but one of them barks. Then I teach that dog to shush. And I tell everybody before class, I said, look, we have a syllabus for this in my head, but if I notice any signs of fearfulness towards people, that's the problem. And that's where I'm going right away. I'd like you all to watch, because you'll maybe need this one day when your dog reacts fearfully to your sister's kids. Number 2, if a dog is barking, I'm going to go and stop it so that you can all hear what I'm saying. So listen to what I do and listen to what I advise to the owner, because I know you'll need this someday with your dog. And to teach a dog to shush on cue is wonderful. And we can do it right in the middle of the play session. You say, Rover, shush, shush, as you're walking towards the dog, shush, and then waggle a food treat on its nose. There's the lure. 3, the dog sniffs and therefore stops barking. Hold the treat there, praise for 3 seconds, then give the treat, which, because you praise for 3 seconds, the treat only rewards stopping barking and remaining quiet for 3 seconds. You repeat that over and over. But additionally, if you want the, no barking 201, then I would teach the dog to speak on cue so you can practice at your convenience when you're calm and your dog's calm. So we just yo-yo, Rover, speak, good dog, good dog. They love that. They can't believe you're praising them when they bark after what they've been through, and then you say, Rover, shush. Count to 3, give the treat. Then you do it again. Rover, speak. This time, let's have 4 seconds. Shush. Get it? And do it again. Next time, 5 seconds. Shush. Then 6. And by the time you get to 10 seconds, most dogs have forgotten what set them off, if it's a natural stimulus, or why they're barking. Oh, no, yeah, he told me to bark. I forgot about that. So they're quite happy about shushing. But again, you have to troubleshoot it. It's very difficult to deal with a lot of these behaviors, like jumping up at the front door, barking in a play session when it's happening. All dogs benefit from prior training in that situation. Woof and shush down at the bottom of the garden, say, where the dogs play, or woof and shush and down or sit by the front door where visitors usually come in.
All right. Ashelter, 4-year-old Aussie, live in Midtown Manhattan. She is loving with my senior Malinois.
Malamute.
Malim.
That's good.
Cat. Seeing another dog on the street, major barking reaction. What is the teaching words I should use?
Well, you can choose the words. I mean, that's not the magic part. I personally teach speak and shush, but I always refer it to woof and shush. So it doesn't matter what verbal command you use, you've got to teach the dog what it means. And that's where lure reward training comes in. And as I said, that instead of walking, I would stand still And so we can classically condition. You see, you can't classically condition in motion because all the stimuli are changing so fast, the dog doesn't know why you're rewarding, because, you know, a million things changed. If you stand still, you can select one stimulus, like a dog approaching on leash or a child on a skateboard, and you give your feedback accordingly. And again, a single food reward won't do it. You got to say, oh, look, here comes another dog. Oh, is he a cookie dog? I think he is. Look, here's a food reward. Who's a good boy? Oh, he's getting closer. I think he's coming our way. We better sit, right? You want to lie down? Good. Here he comes. Good boy. You stay down. Good boy. Good dog. Good dog. Oh, he's gone. So that's the sort of analog feedback I want to give, with the praise progressively increasing the closer the dog gets, and then stopping as soon as the dog passes. Also, the analog praise will change according to how well my dog is doing. Did he glance at the other dog? I'll say, no, you look at me, me, weep, whoop, whoop. There's a good dog, yeah, good boy. So how still is he in his stays? How fixed is the attention on me? So we actually have two scales that change every piece of feedback we give. How the strength of the stimulus, how close is the other dog, plus how well is the dog doing. This is where your brain has to work very quickly. So you see now how kind of stark the basic classical conditioning thing is, and then give your dog a treat. You know, and we'll probably miss that because behavior is changing so quickly, sometimes 3 times in a second. And to learn this, watch a wolf. A wolf's behavior vacillates, you know, they approach, avoid, all in 1 second. And a dog who's scared, again, its behavior is ever changing. So your feedback must be ever changing. It is, without a doubt, once we've taught the meaning of words and then we're using our natural tone too, the primary reinforcing value, so it is the most potent reinforcer you can have, because we can reinforce such a range of things all at different levels. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, say you're a clicker trainer, then we would need, we need a band, a belt around our waist with about 10 buttons on it of varying degrees of reward that are coming, you know, boop, 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 boop. And that would work. But good Lord, you've got to play your belt like a piano then. It's just so much easier to do with our voice. But voice has gone from dog training. Let's all bring it back. Hey, Holly, how you doing? I've been trying to email you. They all come back, just so you know.
All right.
But the result of that, as Jamie will attest, is my old email address.
Michelle says, are there cues we should look for before my dog starts to lunge at a car?
Oh,
he
yeah.
only does it sometimes, and there's no make or model preference. What he'll lunge at today, he won't tomorrow.
Oh, my God. The first cue is the car's coming. Well, as soon as you see a car coming, sit, stay, watch. And you keep that dog looking at you the whole time. We're talking now a behavior that if it goes slightly wrong, if the dog snaps the leash or slips his collar, this is not good news. So, yeah, I would just stand on the sidewalk on a fairly quiet street so that, you know, it's quiet. There's no cars. Here comes the car, and practice with that. You can't walk either, because you cannot train your dog and pay sufficient amount of attention to your dog when doing this. And the goal is that the dog sits and stays and watches your face until the car is done and you say, let's go, and move off in the opposite direction. Then a car's coming, you stand still again. I do that with every dog to this day. If the car's coming, the dog sits. And I don't even have car chasers. But just moving out in front of me, just 4 feet, changes the whole picture now. Or stepping off the sidewalk into the street. And then I would approach this, because it's like an excitement behavior. I would approach from the best possible training scenario. Quiet street, you're stationary, the dog's stationary, nothing's changing apart from the stimulus of the car, and you can really focus on it. I'd work there and then move to busier streets, and I would work on the busiest street you've got and flood the dog. Why? Because the stimuli aren't scary, they're just exciting. So I would just go to Main Street, sit down for 2 hours and deal with it. And the dog would essentially be in a downstay for 2 hours. And people think 2 hours. I say, well, what's he doing when he's at home? Lying down, right, for 2 hours, sleeping. So this is good. And I actually want, if he wants to get comfortable and sleep, that's good too. If you're worried about him, take a bed so he's comfy. But basic control, but you have to troubleshoot it so that you can progressively desensitize and classically condition and operantly condition at the same time.
And
Sit.
of course, one of the biggest signs that your dog is going to go after something is that you look at it. So that's where Ian was suggesting have your dog look at you. And so then it becomes very obvious when your dog looks away from you towards a car or a bicycle or whatever it is. And that's the moment that's the little, warning sign to you that you've got to get their attention back on you, because if they're looking away, they're probably going away. And that's where another thing you can do to really set yourself up for success is to ask your dog to come to you just 1 or 2 steps and move away from the car so that their butt turns towards the car. So not only are they looking at you, but they can't look at the car unless they turn their whole body around, which really makes it easy for you to notice.
Yeah, we have a maxim when we're teaching stays, and if your dog sniffs away, that means if he wiggles his nostrils, he's going to look away and then go away. So what you catch is the little wrinkling of the nostrils, let alone a quick glance over there. And I used to do demos and seminars where I pretend I'm a Malamute because they signal they're going to break the sit stay really well. They sort of do it like this, and so he's in the sit stay, and it's so easy to read, and they give you a 10-second warning. A border collie does this, you say sit stay and they go, and did you see it? That eye flash? That means there's going to be 3 more coming, and then that dog's gone so fast. And so as soon as you see the nose wrinkle, or you see that little eye flash towards where the dog will be going in 5, 10, 20, or 30 seconds time, depending on whether you've got a Malinois or a bloodhound.
All right. Jennifer, how do you handle a client that will not accept that you may know something they don't? Yes, people training. Always more challenging than
to another trainer, preferably in my competition, and say they had a German Shepherd. I say, oh, you should go to so and so at Alpha Dog Training. They love German Shepherds. I in class, I'm very polite, but I explain. I said, look, I'm going to be talking to the dogs a lot as I'm training them. If I have something important to say, I'll say, quiet, please. I have something important to say. I then shan't say a word until everyone's quiet. And then I will say it. And then you can try it or not. If you don't want to do it, it's in a class. They've signed and paid up. As an individual consult, I would never take them on unless they've signed a compliance agreement. And actually, Jamie's name is in this. And I say, it used to be written down, but now I say, look, I have several things I'd rather do than train a dog. And one of them is ski with my son or just chat to him. The other one is just sit down and read a book. What I cannot tolerate, I said, I love dog training. What I cannot tolerate is when I'm giving advice, but it's not followed. And so if you want to do that, I'll just say, okay, I'll give you a few recommendations, but this is my last visit. And then I tell them, when I leave on that visit, I kneel down to say goodbye to the dog. And I do it like this. Well, I used to. I don't do it anymore. I used to kneel down and I'd scratch the dog behind the ear and I'd put my forehead on the dog's head and I'd say, okay, yeah, you'll be all right. Don't worry, buddy. Yeah. I said, okay, Mrs. Brown, see you, bye. And she says, what's wrong, Dr. Dunbar? I said, I'll tell you what's wrong. Your dog has a big problem. He's not happy. He's anxious. He's fearful. I'm giving you suggestions which I know work and you just won't follow them. And I cannot stand to see a dog that I've now bonded to because I love your dog. Yet he's going to be fearful for the rest of his life. So you'll have to find another trainer. So you don't want clients without compliance. There's far too many clients out there. And I wouldn't just leave them. I would refer them to another trainer. And there's some trainers who I respect. And I would much rather refer them on to someone I know who's a good trainer, but I don't have the time to talk to people who are not listening. It's like I talked to Job Michael Evans, years ago, and he never took questions at seminars. And so I said, why not, Job? He says, well, I'll tell you, Ian. He had a book out about house training, right? And, Brother Job, the monks from New Skeet. And he said, I spend a whole day talking about how to house train your dog. Then afterwards, someone comes up to me and takes hold of me and says, oh, Brother Job, do you mind if I ask you a question? And he would say, you just did. And he'd say, no. How do I house train my Yorkie? And he said it was so dispiriting. You spend a whole day explaining how to house train all dogs and kittens too, if you want. It's the same technique, but they can't get it unless it's talked at their Yorkie. For some reason, they think the different breed or the different name, because he's called Sparky, makes him now unhouse trainable. So I love being around people who asked really cool questions, because you can read a question and you know the grip they've got on behavior right from that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is worth taking a moment to kind of think of the novice dog owner's perspective,
Oh yeah.
because unfortunately there are plenty of dog trainers out there who are incompetent or, will give advice that will make your dog's behavior worse. Like it's not surprising that some dog owners are skeptical of the advice they hear. And that's where I think the most powerful thing you can do is show them that what you do works. And one of the things I think Ian has always really prided himself on and done well is quantify behavior. Make sure that you measure the behavior at the outset, so that then, after a little training, you can very clearly show people how the behavior has improved. Because if you can show people that your methods work, then they will want to follow up with them. And if you can't show people that your methods work, they don't work. And it makes sense that the person doesn't want to listen to your advice.
Yeah, we should have this question as part of the bozo game. When you make a statement, then everyone else in the audience has to respond to it real time. They can't think it and say, well, I would do this. They have to do it immediately or say it immediately. So when you do this, you end up with wonderful people training techniques. So I'll go to one of the best people trainers I've ever worked with was Gwen Bonenkamp. And her people training skills were unbelievable. And I went to watch a puppy class one night, and a guy was there with a big old Rottweiler, and he said, I don't want to bribe my dog. And so Gwen says, oh, no, we don't want to do that. As she's speaking, she has a food lure in her hand, and she steps back, and the Rottie comes and sits and lies down and sits up and stands and downs and sits and says, well, there's no need to. Your dog's fantastic. You've done a brilliant job training him, And it's just, and when people say, I don't want to do this, if he replied, I thought I said I didn't want to do this. She said, oh, I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood you. I thought you said you didn't want to do this. I always do, because it's the quickest way. Watch, come, sit, down, sit. So again, show them what you do, or say, why don't you show me? How do you get your dog to sit, stay? And I would probably grit my teeth a few times, but I would watch it. And I would say, yeah, that's how they used to do it about 100 years ago, but we have quicker ways now. Because what you mustn't do, you lose the bozo game if you say things like, then you shouldn't have got a dog. Oh, you know what you just did? You lost that dog as a client. And if you truly think you're the best dog trainer in the world, wouldn't that dog's future life be better off if it worked with you? But because you put the owner down, or you were higher, holier than thou, you know, high on your horse, or, you know, accused him of being a bad person, made him feel bad, now it's the dog that suffers.
Yeah, I think
And
one
I
of the
think
most
there's a lot
valuable.
of trainers out there who haven't yet grasped that. Yes, owners may do stuff that you find reprehensible. And my advice is if it's illegal, you just report them. If it's illegal, if it's distasteful to you, well, the question is ethically, are you going to work this dog that has come to you and probably entered into a contract if money has been exchanged? It's a legal contract. Are you now going to break that contract and ruin the dog's life? And I mean, way back in the day, you know, and I mean like 80s, 90s, I would meet people adamant that this was rubbish. And until one guy said, Ian, you just got to do a puppy workshop because he came out to see one. He says they won't believe it till you show them. Talking about it won't do it. But debating with disbelievers, you know, in the after bar talk, I wouldn't give up. And some of those discussions changed dog training for hundreds of thousands of people. And one was a training club at a huge humane society. And it wasn't even the trainer who came to my seminar, it was the trainer's assistant. But she took the information back. And if I mentioned her name now, the trainer, you'd all know who her name is. But what they did was split the training club into two. We're doing the on-leash stuff with the leash corrections for obedience. Then we have companion dog training, puppy training classes, all off leash. And it was so big, it influenced a whole lot of the northeast of the United States. Sorry, more questions, Jamie. Jennifer's dramatic pause.
Jennifer says, living in a remote forested area of Maine. Nearest town is 20 miles away. Do you have suggestions on how to get a reactive dog comfortable with people, cars, and dogs in this environment?
Yeah, drive to Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get your dog comfortable with dogs or people or cars, you need to have access to dogs, people, and cars. So you have two options. One, you could go to where there are dogs, people, and cars, or you could invite dogs, people, and cars to where you and your dog are. But there's really no way to get your dog comfortable around a stimulus without having the stimulus around.
Yeah, I strongly recommend, you know, dog training parties. And you can have a party to teach a dog anything. And so, number one, you're way in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. So this will probably be not very important unless you have to drive your dog to the city to go to a specialist veterinarian. Say there's no reason for your dog to leave that quiet area. But getting them used to people is important. It will meet people if you go to the nearest town and you take your dog and go to a, you know, coffee shop or a diner or something. So I would have a party and you're bringing people, and since you're so far away, they're coming in their cars. And I would use this to sit down as they all arrive and as they leave. And in the middle of the party, you've got someone in there hosting the people with pizza and beer. And one by one, they greet the dog and back off and greet the dog again. And we do the cars driving off, coming back. And you do it all in 3 or 4 hours. And the dog eats not just all today's kibble, but half of yesterday's too. And you have these wonderful 2 and 3 hour long, you know, troubleshooting training sessions. So if you want to do it, or you've got to do it, that really is the best way. I always think bring the people and the cars to you. You know, this is for years. How long have we had? Don't socialize your dog until he's had his shots. No, wrong advice. The vet should have said, make sure you invite 100 people to your house to handle this dog and hand feed it in the first month it's with you. That's the advice they should have been. And then the cautionary medical advice, but have them take their outdoor shoes and leave them outside, because we spread disease by stuff we tread in. Like in England, whenever there's foot and mouth, they shut down every road. You can't drive. Why? It's spread by car tires.
Now, I love parties too, but I do worry that some people find hosting parties to be a somewhat intimidating or scary concept, and I certainly don't want that to stand in the way of dogs getting socialized. So you can get a lot of bang for your buck by inviting one friend over, and working with that one friend. The key with if you're trying to expose your dog, get them comfortable to something, is repetition. So if you can get one friend to come over for, tea or cookies or something, have them come over, have them come inside, get the dog comfortable, then have the person get in their car and leave and come back and repeat the whole thing. And every time you do it, it'll get easier and easier. Certainly, if you can have 20 people come over, you can make a lot of progress in a single session. But if you find the idea of having 20 people over at one time to be too much, don't let that stop you from doing something. It's much better to do a session with one person than 0 people. So.
Yeah, unless you want to be a hermit. I mean, I get that. If you want to be a hermit and have a hermit dog, as I said, this may not be necessary, but I would strongly advise. I grew up in a farm in the middle of nowhere, and neighbors are very, very important. It's amazing how many times in a year you need them, and you need them quickly. When you're out in the boonies, you want to know the people who are out, the closest ones out in the boonies too. So I would say, what the hell? You be the person who's going to start this social club for boony living.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like there are also some people who are not excited about having other people into their home, certainly unfamiliar people. And so that is where it is always an option to go out and find the people. But I feel like the real key thing is finding a person that is a knowing accomplice that you can work with repeatedly and that knows how to be calm and gentle around your dog instead of trying to work with strangers. Like if you can meet someone in town or something like that. Having someone
I totally get Jamie's point, and the point is the people you do this with need prior training. They need to know what's going on. But in terms of if we don't want people coming into our house, they don't need to. The question's about people and cars. They can come to you, but not come inside. They can line up on your street. They can line up on the block and drive round the block one by one. They're having a what do they call it? God, what do you have when you're going to a baseball game and you're eating out the back of your car?
Tailgate.
Tailgate, that's it. I was going to say a boot party, but yeah. So they're having a great tailgating party, and people probably enjoy that if you live in the countryside. And so we get the dogs used to people, by far most important, and then cars, important if your dog's out of the house, and especially for dogs, and this would be many of them living in the countryside who are out of the house and off leash. And some of them live that way. Sometimes a person's not there. And the cars thing would be really, really important. Okay, next question. Yes.
Vicky says, I have a 5-year-old golden retriever that went from 20 minutes of being out of control when guests come over to 5 minutes. Oh, congratulations. How can I get the remaining 5 minutes down to none? Oh, well, I have the feeling that you probably can continue doing what you did to make the progress that you had.
You're doing well. I would say keeping calm when the guests are there for the 5 minutes while you're trying to calmly get your dog down. You'd prior training, obviously your nose, verbal, sit down, sit, stand down, stand, by the front door in the hallway. And then I would calmly say, Rover, down, Rover, down, down. Now, as soon as the dog goes down, my entire affect would change from neutral to, "Where's a good boy? Yeah, you know how to do down. I had a big, complicated question for you. Yes, good dog, good dog." So essentially, really reinforce the end of the out of control. And out of control ends when your dog goes down, especially if you signaled it down. Then you have the person leave and do it again, and leave and do it again, and leave and do it again. A minimum of 10 re-entries on one visit. But then I would have 10 people come round, as I said. there's going to be 10 people doing 10 re-entries. That's 100 settle downs you're going to practice while you have a friend who's taking care of the catering in the kitchen and feeding and pouring drinks for these people.
Yeah, and by repeating it, you're almost guaranteed that you will get to the point, if you repeat it enough times, where your dog will remain calm when a person comes in immediately.
It always happens, Jamie. Yeah, it always happens. And you're going in. I mean, I would be sitting down right now, drinking wine and patting yourself on the back saying, well, damn, my dog was out of control for 20 minutes. And I've reduced that to 5. I mean, that's wonderful. I think I'll keep doing this, but I'm going to accelerate the process. So I told you how to accelerate the process. And so many of these totally sort of moon looping, out of control behaviors, and it really is visitors at the front door, or people and other dogs and squirrels and deer on walks, they usually can be resolved to the point of you now have control in one extended session, at least an hour long. But I love 2 and 3 hours now. And why? Because, life is just moving too quickly these days. And I can think of nothing better than chilling on a park bench with a dog beside me and chatting to it. We have another question.
Canine obsession. Our 2-year-old female FB. What's that?
FB. French bulldog.
French bulldog keeps attacking our 4-year-old male French bulldog.
They
She
all
is
do
good with
that.
him 90% of the time, but the 10% she gets fixated on him, hard stares, and then attacks. Working with a veterinary behaviorist. Need more help, please.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about dog fighting, let's call it, right? Or scrapping, usually. First thing we have to make certain of is neither dog is dangerous. And we always check that beforehand by looking at their fight-bite ratio. So number of fights, number of bites, meaning the dog has punctured the skin, or my criterion is you took the dog to the vet to be repaired. And a lot of people will actually do that, and there's not even a skin puncture. But whatever, then I would treat it more seriously. Why? Because the owner is scared and worried now. But what you usually get is, and in situations like this, is many scraps. And so what is a scrap? What is a fight? It starts and it doesn't stop until one dog's severely injured. They're long. Okay, so what's a scrap? It's usually very normal. Even lengthy scraps now, and you're watching the dogs, and afterwards they're fine. Like you get this a lot in puppies. I filmed, when I was doing research, a dog fight between 2 sort of 12-week-old puppies that probably went on for 3 or 4 minutes, a long time, because I walked back to get the camera after the fight started and then came back to film it. And so what that's saying is these dogs have incredible bite inhibition. You can't, it's fact. It's not like, well, I think they're trying to kill each other. Obviously not. If they are, they're not very good at it, right? So once you've convinced yourself they're safe, I would say either leave them alone unless it's disturbing you, either disturbing your concentration or just disturbing your peace of mind. And then say, dogs, beds, down. Basic training, basic training. Imagine they were 2 toddlers in your home, and they are now really scrapping and rolling on the floor and biting and crying. What would you say? You would just separate them and say, now sit down, both of you. And just don't overthink it. It's not a complicated problem, but a lot of people just can't do it. And they can't do it because they don't try. They don't think about it. Barking is one of them. And then dog stuff is another. But things like that are really, sorry, I was looking at the post comes up, proud hermiter. Good, yeah. Me too, actually. Yeah, people don't realize that. They think I'm an outward going person. No, I'd much rather stay in my house and garden and with a dog. If it's not dangerous, deal with it, and preferably deal with it with your voice, even if you're convinced they're scrapping. I don't want you reaching for the dogs and you get bitten, because then legally that changes from a behavior problem to a legal problem. A bite is an incident that must be reported by law. And if you're a professional, yet I don't know too many dog trainers or veterinarians or vet techs or groomers who say, oh, I had this client, the dog bit me, because you'd lose clients pretty quickly. But most bites aren't reported. But it's much more serious, because if it's biting you, the owner, it's going to generalize to other people slowly, but predictably. So just teach them to sit and down anywhere and everywhere, every 25 yards on a walk, and every 30 seconds or so when they're playing. Now we got the control. So now when you say down, it makes sense to the dog. It's no good just training the dog in the living room or the kitchen, say, because all you have is a good kitchen dog. The response reliability, you see, this is the beauty of quantifying the effectiveness of our training, of working out that response reliability percentage. Because when you train the dog, you can work out and say, well, we're 90% in the kitchen. Yeah, but where are you in the living room where this usually happens? And where are you in your yard? And then what is it when you're on leash? And it drops so precipitously in areas and situations where you haven't trained the dog. Dogs do not generalize from what you've taught them in one place under certain circumstances to other places. And again, I told you the two best exercises: every 25 yards on a walk, stop, at least ask your dog to sit. But I would do the whole routine. That's what's happening tonight, because we're going to test it again tomorrow. Okay. And when the dogs are playing, interrupt it. And this is where in puppy classes and dog classes, it's easy to do because it's a small room or a small fenced area. So your dog can't escape. It goes like this. This was just last Saturday. Was 5 puppies. I said, right, have your puppies sit. And the number one stage is take the collar, have it sit. Once we can do that, it's have it sit without touching, take the collar. All right, and then 3 and 4. So everyone goes to get the puppies sitting, and they're at different stages because we have rolling enrollment. 2 of them said sit, then they took the collar. 2 of them had to take the collar, then the dogs sit. 1 dog is running around the room like a banshee. And with the other dogs said, right, when the dogs are sitting, put them in downstays. This dog is going from dog to dog and jumping on it. And I said, and we've enlisted Rosie today, the bead of distraction, for your dogs in downstays. And the owner is hapless. She could not catch this dog at all. So then she's grabbing at the dog. I said, don't grab it, just take its collar. I said, as it goes up to molest a dog in a downstate, walk towards it, take the collar, then have it sit. She can't lure yet. And this was actually in puppy 2. So I showed her how to do it. She had great difficulty. She kept doing this, trying to, she thought a lure was lifting the puppy's chin up. I said, no, hold your food like this, sit, boing. Anyway, by the end of the session, I said to her, right, all you're doing through the session, everyone else will be doing something different. Yo-yo recalls across the room, or getting their dog to follow them, or downstairs or sit stays. You will be telling your dog to sit, take the collar, go play all the time. And at the end of the class, I said, by Jove, you've done it. You can do it now. And I said, I'll tell your trainer next class, that is all you're doing in the class. And it amazed me because she was having so much difficulty, but it's much easier than it seems, because when you say everyone have your dog sit, a lot of people can. There's only 1 or 2 people who can't. So now we can focus on those and give the other people something different to do. Okay. Which is keeping your dog in sits and downstays under duress from the maniac dogs which are still running around. Oh, canine obsession. Is that?
All right. It pains me to say it, but we are approaching our 5 o'clock ending time. But
Can we
we'll
take
be
the
back
Liz
tomorrow, and I
Gibson
think we've got
one?
time for one more question today.
Yeah, she's written a whole book, it seems.
Okay, here's a short question.
Oh.
Sharon, What's the best way to keep your dog out of your garden?
Well, I still do it by off leash verbally. I introduce the dog to the garden, and the one I have here is complicated. Lots of paths you can walk on, lots of garden you can't even sniff or touch. The lawns, one you cannot walk on unless accompanied. The other one is the dog lawn, you know. And I follow them around and I praise them and give them treats on the paths and stuff. And if they get on the garden, I say, hey, off the garden, off the garden, off the garden. You know, on the path would be better, you know, path. However, nothing beats a fence. If you can't do that, you've got to have a fence. I'm such a believer in fences around your property and between yourself and the neighbors and probably around your garden.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's hard to supervise and manage a dog with your mind and your voice all the time. You know, like it's doable, and you can teach your dog a lot, but it requires concentration. And most people want to take a break a lot of the time. And you know, it's like going back to raising your puppy. You wouldn't just let your puppy roam freely throughout the house. You want to be supervising your puppy until they've learned how to obey the house rules. And the same goes for the garden. So I think a lot of people think that it's outdoors, so it's a free for all, but no, outdoors is requires just as much supervision as indoors.
You know, Celeste said Dr. Dunbar talks about the garden issue in his book too. I don't remember that. Did I? Can you remember, Jamie?
Um, I would imagine you did, but I can't recall a
Oh.
uh, specific section.
Anyway,
But
let me see.
garden doesn't
Okay,
appear in the
I
index.
just want to answer Liz's question because it's a 9-month-old dog that's jumping at her and mouthing her when they're ending our walk, hard mouths when we're ending our walk. Then I would I would end your walk many times in one walk. You know, if you're doing a walk and the dog's having a great time and then it ends, obviously it doesn't want it to end. And so they develop a lot of ploys to get it to continue. And one of them is going crazy, one of them is running away if it's an off-leash walk, and one is this taking the leash or taking the hand. So unacceptable. So I would practice it on a walk, and I would walk, and then just 5 yards, then I would come back to the house and deal with it. And then I go on a walk again for 5 yards or maybe 8 yards, come back to the house and do the ending routine. You see, the only way you can deal with this is if you practice the trigger, which is the ending the walk over and over and over and over. So you need lots of little walks. I would do some hand feeding. I would teach off with food. I would teach off with a tug toy, you know, to teach it all these muzzle rules that in the tug toy, you only take this when I say take it. You must let go when I say thank you. You must not touch it if I say off, and you must never touch my hand. If it touches your hand, you go, ow, to a touch. So we're now out of the end of the walk routine. We're doing something new. So the dog learns, wow, man, you know, when I touch the hand, are they namby-pamby hamsters or something? I mean, you know, I can mouth a puppy harder than that. Then hand feeding. And I keep the food between 2 fingers and thumb. And I go right inside the dog's mouth to teach it gently. Or llama lips is usually the cue I use. I say llama lips, you know, like that. And then when we're doing it on the walk, you have words the dogs understands. Off, gently, ow, worm, don't do that. And if it reacts to the ow by whoom, upping the ante, just cry. Hold your head in your hand, do this so you're protecting yourself. And I mean it, just really like that. It's very, very effective. You know, I know a lot of people with the puppy thing, they go, ouch, ouch. And the dog just amps it up. Doesn't work. What they can't stand is losing you. So if you're at home, if you were confined, what I would say to them is, I would just say, I'm not playing with you. You upset me and I'd leave and shut the door. But that means your dog has to be in an area where he safely cannot get into trouble for if he's a young adolescent or puppy, so he doesn't chew your chair legs or, stuff. Outside, I would probably do it quieter because we got to hold on to the leash, and I would get very quiet. And dogs, they don't like that. They hate it. I think it is stressful. I think it worries them. It is really effective. I had my first Malamute. I had him in the ring to compete when he was 6 months and 1 day old, because they had to be 6 months to get in the ring, right? And we passed the next day. And on the third day, because I wanted him to have his, novice CD when he was 6 months and 3 days old. Kind of like, because everyone's talking about all their titles and stuff, and I'd never done any of that. On the third day, we are heeling off leash, and he went, ooh, ooh. And then he slowly walked off, jumped over the ring fence, through 3 rings into a 5th ring, jumped over the fence and joined a man heeling his golden retriever. Anyway, I had a lot of people watching me because there was a Malamute specialty on. And so afterwards, so I won't dwell on this story, but I got home and I thought, how the hell do I solve this problem? I thought it only occurs in the ring. And then I thought, no, I knew better. No, it won't. I took him to Bushrod Park, 2 a.m, and I heeled him. Like staccato heeling, heel sit, about turn, left turn, right turn, heel sit, all the sort of stuff that Malamutes hate but Border Collies love. And then he did it again. He went, whoa, whoa. And then he walked away. I said, Omaha, heel. He totally ignored me. So I said, okay, then you go away. I don't even want to train with you. And I sat on the ground. I said, next thing I knew, his wet nose was prodding me. And I said, no, go away. Like this. I'm having this little tantrum at 2 a.m. And that changed our relationship now. All I had to do was quietly go, and he would look up at me and actually pretend he was a golden retriever or border collie. So I would try the crying routine if normal, saying off gently doesn't work. But to solve the problem, you have to troubleshoot the trigger. So many people live in a sequence. They leave their house, the dogs, they can't even get the collar on, the dog's jumping. They walk to their car, the dog jumping won't get in. They let him out of the car, he goes ballistic. They walk into a dog park, he's pulling them through the double gates, they let him off leash, then they ignore him. Then eventually when he comes back, they grab him, put the leash on and go home. Everything's so predictable. Make it unpredictable. Have the walk end very quickly, then we have another one. Walk ends quickly, then another one. So now the dog's not so crushed when the walk ends because he knows he might get another one. So, the principles are all the same. The solution is drop dead simple. For so many problems, ask your dog to sit and shush. However, to make it work, you have to troubleshoot it and do a setup so you can repetitively expose the dog over and over to the triggers. There we go.
All right, let's end there.
Wait, I think Liz wants to say thank you, Ian, for taking my question. Yes.
I should mention that.
But because I didn't have my glasses on, I thought the 2 other questions, so they kind of look the same. The ones from Canine Obsession, and I thought it was all about the same problem. I thought she really needs an answer. So yeah, you really better say thank you, Liz. And for Canine Obsession, I'm sorry because Jamie will be ruthless about time's up.
I should take this moment to say thank you to our sponsors, Doggy Dan. Thank you, Doggy Dan, and the Healing Vet. Thank you, Healing Vet, and of course, Dunbar Academy. That's us. Thanks for making this summit possible. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And tomorrow we're doing our last live Q&A of this summit. Maybe we'll go a little
I was just
longer.
getting used to it, Jamie. It's adding like structure to my life that has zero structure. 4 p.m. every day, be there.
Well, maybe we'll have to do some more in the future.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your wonderful questions. We will see you next time, maybe tomorrow.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. And bye-bye, Jamie. See you tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.